Good day, everyone. Here we are again with part 3 of The Age of Reason with Rob. And Rob, it's great to be with you again. You've got a nice fire going over here, so I can feel the glow from the side.
Yes, it's a pity people can't see it, Des, and I'm thrilled to be back, and thank you very much for asking me to be here again.
Well, from the feedback that you've given, you enjoy these discussions. It's nice for me to have these discussions with Rob. I have no idea what he's going to say, to be honest. So we have these discussions cold, and I think it makes it authentic. And you hear things in the spur of the moment as it comes out. It's as real as it can be, and that's really great. Rob, you've tried to get onto Facebook recently, and for the first time in a while. Maybe just quickly tell us about that experience before we continue, because I find it interesting.
Yes, Des, thank you, and just to put your mind at ease, I also sometimes don't know what the devil I'm going to say next.
No, that's fine. We're not going to edit anything out. Some of the people complained about volume, so we must just try and speak loud enough for the people. So yeah, otherwise we have to put up this massive contraption here, and I want it to be as real as can be. So a camera and a laptop is already a lot of technology in front of us. But we have to use it to get out there to the people. So if you can tell your story about Facebook. You were on and off like almost immediately.
Yes, Des, and it was, as best as I can understand, I went onto Facebook. I took myself off some months ago, being fed up with the propaganda exercises that Facebook indulge in the sense that they allow some things and they don't allow other things. Nonetheless, I joined up with Facebook again for the sole purpose of liking Lauren's Leave Our Guns Alone page.
Okay, so for the campaign, the Leave Our Guns Alone campaign.
Correct.
Okay.
Just to like it. And within 48 hours, my Facebook was disabled. And it gave me the option of an appeal, which I did. And within literally minutes, it was disabled again. And I appealed again, and they asked me to upload a photograph of myself. So to test the system, I uploaded a photograph of someone else. And it didn't take them more than 10 seconds at most to tell me that I can't remember the words I used, but just, you're fake. Okay, so that was that. I haven't gone back onto Facebook again.
So artificial intelligence realized that was not you, and therefore didn't allow your profile.
Absolutely. And for those people out there who don't know, your images of your face are on Facebook in their computers, and they get there through various means. People post a picture of you at a party or whatever. It goes into your file with everything else, like, for instance, what channels you watch, when you watch them, what like buttons and dislike buttons, the works. There is nothing that you do on a computer or a cell phone that is not recorded. But it doesn't mean that it's processed information. So they process it on a need basis, whenever they need to. So 90% of it is lying there, but not processed. So there's no reason for people to panic yet.
Yeah, so it's data gathering initially, and then you get poor sods like myself that I know is being shadow banned. I would put a post out on 00 days, and after an hour, no one has seen it, so it's reached nobody, and there's been no responses. And, people have complained about this. But our hands are chopped off with regards to that. So you rely actually on people going to your page to go and have a look to see what's going on. And that is the only traffic you get at the end of the day.
Yes, I hear what you say about relying on people to go to search for something. And it's something I'm going to dive into shortly. So I'm reluctant to speak like I am virtue signaling, But there is an element of entitlement amongst most people, and this is exploited. But people feel that they're entitled to things that ordinarily they should really go and dig out for themselves, such as information. I've been digging out information for 55 years. And I want to emphasize here.
That's a long time. You beat me hands down, Rob.
I want to emphasize that people should not confuse my information with science degrees. I have no degree in anything.
Oh, you mentioned that last time.
I have, but I do touch on things like anthropology, history, religious history, psychology sometimes, and so on. And it's just through observing things and being mindful. And I have the time to do it. And I must stress that most people are not given the time.
Okay.
They are wrapped up in their own day-to-day struggles, more so now than ever before in history. And of course, there's a reason for that. And I want to dive briefly into the reason. And maybe give people an idea of why we are here.
In the situation?
In the situation in South Africa and the world.
Okay.
And I also want to give people the idea that it's not what we are finding ourselves in is not natural. If you're feeling comfortable and you feel things are okay, you are wrong.
I actually like that. So everyone should be feeling uncomfortable with what's happening.
Absolutely. The threats that we face on many fronts are very real, and there's a call to people to stand up now and be responsible. Take a stand. Stop sitting on a wire or a fence and really do something immediately within their own family, even if it's a over the dinner type discussion. But I've been wrestling with a phrase on how to describe the situation that we find ourselves in now.
Mm-hmm.
And the best one I can come up with is that we are experiencing an evil something. You're going to have to cut this out. An evil expression of a divine desire.
Okay. That's quite deep.
It's very deep, and I want to take...
I like it though.
Thank you.
An evil expression of a divine desire.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
Yes. Thank you. And I want to take people briefly back to about 10 years before Weishaupt started his Illuminati movement.
Yes.
He did not come up with that idea on his own. He was a scholar of Sabbatean Frankianism, and Shabbati Zevi and Jacob Frank were responsible for that, let's call it a movement, and they borrowed their ideas out of a dark interpretation of the Jewish Kabbalah.
Yeah.
And if people are thinking, no, well, what's that got to do with us now? And I'd point them no further than to Hollywood.
That's quite a turn. I love that.
Yes. Up until recently, when I was following the shenanigans of the Hollywood fraternity, it was the in thing to be practicing Kabbalah and being a Kabbalistic scholar.
Can you explain your understanding of that?
It's really the mystical or esoteric side to the Jewish religion. Okay. There's the Torah, the Talmud, the written word, but there's also the Kabbalah, which is the occult of the Middle East, the secrets of Middle Eastern existence. Okay. And there's some very good interpretations out there. They go very deep and...
maybe you can just briefly explain your background and your interest in this.
Okay, well,
if it's not a distraction.
No, yes, some fun. I was married briefly once to a wonderful lady who decided that she could struggle along somehow without me after a short period of time, but gave us enough time to have one son, Gene, my good son. And I'm not very skilled at relationships, as you probably well know.
I get along with you fine. But you are hermit-like, I would say.
Yes.
My father was the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's a good or a bad thing, but it's more comfortable for me, and it's probably because I'm nuts, and I really mean that. But I met a lady years later who seemed to think that I'm sort of okay.
Not is not.
And she was an Orthodox Jew.
Okay.
And her family surname was Reichmann.
Okay.
Which is really the
German
Jew, yes.
Yeah.
What's that?
From the
Ashkenazi Jews,
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And she agreed that I could propose to her on condition that I got converted to Orthodox Judaism.
Okay.
I had no hesitation, none whatever. And I immediately signed up with a beautiful rabbi and started a conversion process to Orthodox Judaism.
So you understand what Big Daddy Liberty is going through, more or less?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But there is such a big difference in terms of Jewish factions. I've lost count of how many different interpretations of Jewish behavior there are.
Okay.
There's the Orthodox, there's the Reformed Jews, and amongst the Orthodox there's the Kollel Jews, there's the names which I've subsequently forgotten. Nonetheless, becoming knowledgeable about Orthodox Judaism helps me understand, and my rabbi touched on some aspects of the Kabbalah, which I found very interesting. And it's just briefly, I'm just going to mention a sentence. It's really their ability to connect the written word to mathematics.
Okay.
And very interesting. They propose that there's a mathematical function with each letter of their alphabet, and adding and dividing or multiplying, whatever it is, a word will bring you to a number, and the numbers of great significance. So it's something along those lines.
Okay.
So but there's a lot more to the Kabbalah than that. It's practices, but there's a version of the Kabbalah that is dark and deep, and that is what I call evil expression of a divine desire.
Got it. Okay.
And it plays out in Hollywood today. And also, interestingly enough, probably the biggest cover-up in history, as far as I know, and I may upset a few people here, is the Jeffrey Epstein cover-up. If humanity, if the people of the world knew what that covered up, the world would be in a state of catatonic stupor. It's huge, but let's leave it at that.
Okay.
We today find ourselves in a position of thinking, believing certain events, and I've completely lost my train of thought.
No, we must just Jeffrey Epstein and what was covered up.
Jeez, okay, yeah. I'm not going to go into what was covered up, because it is, I can say things on this channel that you can't say.
Yes.
But there's also things that I can't say.
Yes.
That are likely, probably true. But it does go deep, and it's not only 370 years ago, 3,700, 10,000, 12,000 years ago, for those who've got the patience to connect the dots. But what I briefly touched on should help people understand that we are in trouble, and there's a reason for it.
Yeah, and that's the main thing you want to bring across.
Correct.
So people shouldn't be comfortable with the state that we're in right now.
Humanity is in a difficult position, whether that most people realize it or not. And what I like about your efforts is that I talk about the historical things of whatever, but you talk about the day-to-day practices that will get us out of this position.
And I've deliberately focused on that because of the years of research. I can't transfer that into someone else's mind. I can only encourage people to do that research, as you have done for much longer than I have, because you have to make the research your own. Is that not so? Absolutely. I mean, you shouldn't just trust someone else. You should go and do the effort, make the effort.
Quite right. And you can. It's just a human thing. If you tell somebody 100 times something in fine detail, it will not mean anything. There's a certain skill to imparting information where you plant a little idea and people run off consciously or unconsciously in a direction looking for answers and uncovering something themselves. And that way they take ownership of it.
That's important.
Suddenly it becomes important, and suddenly they become important because they discovered it.
Yeah.
There's your convert. Right there and then is somebody that supports you or whatever ideology is being put out, and it grows from there. So I was speaking to my daughter a night or two ago about Laura, about how deep I should go and what I should say in a typical interview like this. This is new to me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to repeat that I'm quite surprised that folks find value in this. But I can understand now, thinking back, that I've been doing it for 55 years. And she said to me, Rob, you don't give people homework. And I can understand why she said that, because she's studying herself and she doesn't like homework.
Well, she's studying psychology, right?
Yes. Well, while we're on that, thank you for throwing those words in. It does give me things to talk about.
Okay.
Is that psychologists are going to be very much in demand from today onwards, because that is the medical enterprise, the medical fraternity that is going to get humanity out of the mess that it is in now, whether humanity realizes it or not. As soon as they wake up, they realize we're in trouble, and psychologists will be in good demand. So any young people out there who are thinking of studying something and are interested in the human condition, you won't be short of work in the future. Psychologists are going to be in great demand, and new ideas and new people are going to be discovered that figure out how to get us out of the situation we find ourselves in now. So study psychology is my advice to anybody who's got the intellect.
I think everyone should study it in English.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
And philosophy as well. Philosophy has a place.
You spoke of anthropology earlier as well.
Yes. I have thrown a few anthropological ideas out there. But what I'd like to throw out is something that runs parallel with it, or should run parallel with it, and that is philology. And that is the study of the history of language. If you do a little bit of both, you will be delighted in the fact that you discover how to connect dots.
And the issue of words too.
Absolutely, linguistics.
We had a meeting yesterday where we discussed this at length. The history of words and the meaning of words.
Correct. That's linguistics and philology, the study of the history of language, very important. And while we're on that subject, I'm going to throw something out there called the Amaziga.
You're throwing daggers, Rob.
So if somebody wants to understand...
Sharp daggers.
If somebody wants to understand where the word Amazon comes from, the Amazon jungle, the Amazon river, and the word amazing. Study the Amaziga people and why they were referred to as Berbers, and in latter day jargon, barbarians. Who gave them that handle and why?
Yes.
and also
When they are fully self-reliant, right? They don't rely on the outside world at all for the
they
survival.
are an amazing people.
Yeah.
And the Amazon female warriors, that's where that myth comes from. And some scientists say it's no more than a myth, and others say, no, it's real. The Amaziga, or the Amazon warriors, were fearless female soldiers, if you want to call it. It's a whole field, and it's interesting. And maybe there are some people out there who are more informed than I am, who could explain how the Amazon and the Amaziga people of North Africa, what is the connection there? That would be interesting to figure that out.
These are vital things you're starting to speak about now, because I've studied this at length.
Okay.
The links between different continents and
Yes.
what the people believe. And I mean, it's fascinating, because that starts to connect serious dots.
Very much so.
I mean, that is level 5 knowledge, not level 4. And the fact that you're spitting it out there now makes me see you in a different light, to be honest. I've discovered, I've mentioned before, maybe not even 10 people in this country that have what I call level 5 understanding, which is beyond the rabbit hole, which is level 3, where you're in free fall, and the level 4 where you're crawling towards the light, and then level 5 where you're starting to see the broad scope of the universe, which actually can become more confusing than anything else, because the more you know, the more there is to know, the more you know how little you know. This is the conundrum that I think a lot of people struggle with. And this is where I come back to just doing what we need to do practically.
Correct.
To overcome the problems now.
Correct.
So the Amaziga. How much studying have you put into that?
Not terribly much, other than they were vilified and displaced.
That's very important to understand, because in history, a lot of people have been vilified.
Correct.
And you have to see how, why, what's the reason behind it, of course.
Yes, and why that then becomes mainstream narrative. There's a reason for it.
Yes.
And incidentally, the Egyptians are not Africans. They pulled in from the Middle East, in case people confuse Egyptians with Africans. And then, of course, out of that, then we discussed that before, Rome and the Catholic Church and that whole episode. But touching on, I think it's a book or something in the Christian Bible called Ecclesiastes, that has a lovely paragraph in it about there is nothing new under the sun. And that's the end of the paragraph, but it's 3 or 4 lines, and it's a lovely paragraph. I'm not versed in religion, or any religion. I understand different kinds of religions. I understand that there probably is something called a spirit, but
still grappling with the concept.
I'm grappling with the concept, but on the basis that if you call what I know level 5, what in heaven's name are you going to call what I reveal next? But
remember, level 5 is as broad as the universe, Rob. It just opens up into endless rays of light of understanding, and I mean, so there's no end to it. It's an infinite amount of knowledge, and the thing is, we're sitting at the bottom tip of all of that knowledge. But once you're out of that digging through and struggling through things, all the things you speak of that have made Amazinga barbarians, for instance, that perception and so on. Once you've worked your way through all of that, then you can see things for what they really are, and then your perspective changes of the universe. And to me, it's a simplistic way of explaining human understanding. But level 5 is not a level that's as big as other levels. It's infinitely big and open.
Well, that's a relief.
Yes.
Thought
if I had to go to 6, 7, 8, I mean, then I have to categorize things I don't even understand. So, yes, it becomes a mess.
Yes, or I'm going to touch on something else here where I might be on.
So go for level quadrillion.
level 5.1. The Pentagon is releasing a document tomorrow to Congress. Bear that in mind. That's all I'm going to say. So, yeah, for those who want to do some research and discover things and take ownership of ideas and allow themselves to be exposed to insanity, go for it.
Yeah, become insane. be a part of the nut house, the nutters.
Yes, but also don't forget to come back to ground levels where you and Lauren are so valuable. You're showing us a way out in simple steps that, if thought through carefully, will lead to a great country, a great world. It's fairly easy for me to connect the dots to see how one thing could lead to another, how small steps you are taking could lead to another. I can understand it, and it's possible. So anybody out there that doesn't know what to do once they've discovered that we are in a little trouble, I can tell you that Des and Lauren's ideas are practical and doable.
Yeah, as I say, it's one person at a time.
One person, one step at a time.
People often ask me, how do you get to everyone out there? I say,
one at a time.
One at a time. It's not difficult.
Yeah. Des, you were earlier telling me that Lauren's movement is getting so much momentum and likes and followings. Where do you see you will be, or Lauren will be, at the end of the year?
Well, that is a question that we ask ourselves at this stage, because we actually don't know. So everything that we're doing, it's a plan that you put into action, is dependent on people. So people have to make it happen. It's not dependent on me or her. And that's the beauty of the plan, and that's also the complexity of the plan, because the plan is as complex as every individual that become a part of the plan or believe in the plan and then follow it, because a plan is not a person. So there's no hero, there's no superhero or anyone that's going to save anybody. And as you say, humanity's in trouble, and you say psychologically they need help. Well, like I said before, I wanted to make a video that the world's gone mad, and I thought, sure, I don't know how people are going to handle it. But I do, shame, there was this wonderful lady I spoke to earlier that organized one of our meetings in Bloemfontein, and I just offloaded on her all the burdens that I have. She just seemed like the motherly kind of person that I could speak to. So shame, Carol, I'm so sorry about that, but just take it as the compliment. I felt that you were a person I could speak to, and sometimes you just need to get rid of the frustrations, because the madness in the world is the fact that someone that is working in a corporate environment has to be sent a link to find something. The fact that that person cannot go and find something. The fact that someone cannot find my email address. The fact that I have to answer WhatsApp, SMS, Facebook Messenger, emails, YouTube messages, on all these different platforms, when I would ask people to contact me on one specific platform. For instance, either email or SMS, because it makes it easier for me. And if people aren't upset with me, then that is fine, because I'm not doing this for any financial gain. I'm making zero out of it. In fact, I've spent all my life savings, not investments, my normal savings, I've spent on this exercise. And it's absolutely worth it. It's difficult when people expect things from you. That is difficult to me, and especially if you always will let someone down. In other words, there will always be a person you don't get to that feels let down. And I don't like that. I would like to be able to get to everyone in some way, shape, or form. And I could send a voice message to someone on an SMS. Now it's a MMS, and their phones cannot download it. So they don't get my message, and according to them, I never message them back.
It's your fault.
Yeah, well, not necessarily, but that's a situation I find myself in. Now, if I was running for public office or to become an MP or to become the president, then I should get all the flack I deserve. But I'm not. Do you understand? So, yeah, those are the challenges that comes with what we are doing. And the last online meeting, as awesome as the online meeting was, the time before was extremely stressful because I had to get to over 40 people within like half an hour. And then after the meeting, I had to deal with all the people that didn't get the pin for the meeting in time. So there were probably another 20, 30 people that didn't give pins, which means the meeting would have had over 70 people in there, which would have been great. So I need to plan better. I always look at myself and see how can I do things better. But I'm still a human. I have a body. Just like earlier when I put out the video on Cyril Ramaphosa, he has a physical body and he's actually taking strain. I also do take strain. And I've never been sick during this time, which is incredible. People can help me if they just use their healthy minds and make the effort to not make me do the effort for all of them. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So that is my, it's not a frustration, it's a burden. It's a real burden carrying other people's incapacity or inability to want to make the effort to do a simple thing that anyone could. Because many of the people that did contact me found my email in LinkedIn or wherever else. They managed to find my email address when many people didn't. And I then got messages from everywhere. If they went onto a laptop or a PC, they would have found it, but on their phone, they couldn't. I'm just giving an example. So it's something people should consider, and some people might be upset that I say this, that there are ways and means if you want to make the effort to actually still get something if it's out there. Because people email me all the time, and I don't have to go into a lot of detail in telling them where to find my email address.
Des, yes, for folks out there who feel that perhaps becoming practically and physically self-reliant is maybe not for them this year or this week or this month, you can take a step in the right direction simply by doing your own bit of research, as Des just mentioned. There is absolutely no reason. There's so much information out there, so readily available to everybody. We need to take advantage of YouTube and the internet while it lasts, because it's not going to last forever, and then we will be dumbed down in a way that people will find incomprehensible.
Yeah, this is a very important topic you're touching on now.
Very much so. As you know, our bosses, our leaders, the guys that think of themselves as rocket scientists, have an idea for what they're going to do with books. You and I know what they're going to do with books. Research it for yourselves.
And this is a repeat of history. It's not like we haven't been there already.
There's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
Des, and if somebody wants to know, I know you're sensitive about this, if somebody wants to do a bit of research the burning of the Alexandria Library and find out what happened to that information. You will be surprised.
Yeah. The Alexandria Library, the burning of the library, go and research that, people.
The information is out there. There is no excuse for people to be uninformed today. The problem that we have is that if you follow mainstream media, you're misinformed.
Yeah.
If you don't follow it, you're uninformed.
Yeah. It's not even journalism.
No, it's propaganda.
Yeah.
And that should obviously by now really be obvious.
If you don't understand that now and you're on this channel, you're on the wrong channel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's all there. It's all at your fingertips. It takes minimum effort. So if you remain uninformed and misinformed, you deserve whatever the damn hits you. Honestly.
Yeah, I like that you say that, because we have to be brutally honest.
Absolutely.
You deserve it. You know, I said the other day that you can go and then sit in your room and you can frack there. You can die. And because you have that right to choose to do nothing. Like you say, you can do small little things. And if you're willing to do nothing, you should frack. I mean, that's what's going to end up happening to you. Because the powers that be, to them, many of us are a problem. And I don't think it's convenient for them to have us around. I don't have to elaborate more now, but I think people should read between the lines.
Yes, I touched on it briefly last time with you, and that is the overpopulation thing. I'm going to repeat it again.
Yeah.
If one were to divide 7.5 billion into the square meterage of Lesotho, we know how small Lesotho is. Everybody could lie down, stretch out their arms, and not touch another soul. That is their version of overpopulation.
Yeah.
And it's simple arithmetic. You can do it on your calculator in 1 minute flat.
Yeah.
We don't have an overpopulation problem.
No.
But I'm still trying to, maybe you can explain to me now or in the future, why 7.5 billion people are too much for them. Is that been they can't manage 7.5 billion?
No, because their boss, and this is my version, doesn't want those people. It's inconvenience on his domain.
It's excess baggage or something along those lines. Yeah.
Parasites.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to be part of this new order that's been created, and remember, we are the order. So
we then become the threat.
Yes, then you become the threat, and you need to. It's a very easy thing to do. Is just have no need for those people anymore if they're a threat within this order.
Yes. Yeah. I'm gonna throw something out there now. No, I better not. Okay, let's leave it. I'll leave that.
We should end up with something shocking, Rob, at least.
Okay. I can't. You're going to get thrown off your channel.
Thrown off the channel.
Your channel will be discombobulated. So it's really got to do with the health issue, and it's better that we don't go there on your YouTube.
Go there, at this stage. Yeah, the World Health Organization. Hello. They are watching closely, and all their friends and allies. The people that dislike, your visit to a coffee shop where you're supporting a local person, those kinds of just evil people. Yeah. Hello to the World Health Organization. You're becoming weaker and weaker. That's obvious. And you are starting to shelf things to our government, like the wearing of masks and how it should be done is now being shelved to the health departments in the various governments. And I think they're getting a lot of flack. And it means one thing: their funding is drying up. That's all it means. If you are willing to fund all the evil they could do, they will continue with that endlessly, unceasingly.
Very much so. The evil expression of a divine desire.
The evil expression of a divine desire. I like that.
That's what we're in at the moment.
Yeah.
Because there is a choice. People can choose to interpret the Kabbalah in a good way or a bad way. People can choose to excuse themselves from, let's call it, consequences.
Yeah.
But my understanding of esoteric principles, as much as I can wrap my head around it, is yes, here's something nice. Good will triumph over evil. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I don't know when. And it is possible that a time will come. Here's something interesting. A time will come in the existence of humanity where technology will be superfluous.
Yeah.
We will not need technology
Absolutely.
of any description.
I believe that.
And
Absolutely.
that's where we're going, and that could be considered the end game. I doubt it, but maybe the end of a stage.
Yeah.
So don't sweat too much about your cell phones or technology or cameras. No. It's a passing phase.
Yeah.
We will not need that in the future. So I'll leave that with you to do some research.
Yeah, I think that's it's a very fitting thing to put out there, because I've touched on that in the meetings, but I haven't gone into too much detail.
And rightly so.
Yeah, and with the training as well, I've touched on that. And for the Omis out there, hello Omis, and Yes, so we need to have the ability, in fact, to be able to communicate without any technology, and I don't have to make known why or how that will happen in future.
I'm familiar with the idea. Let's just call it an idea for the purposes of this discussion. And for people who doubt out there, it's as real as I'm sitting in front of you. I have no reason to lie.
Yeah. But Rob, is there anything else you want to put out there? I think we've had a good, solid discussion. Lots for people to think about and to research.
Yes, I have put a few things out there for homework. I would love to hear comments about this video and my ideas. And I'm absolutely mindful of the fact that there are many people out there who are far more informed on many subjects than I am. So I'm very much open to feedback, comments, corrections. I thrive on that, so please let me have it.
So people, you can leave comments for Rob. He will respond to you. I will not divulge his name, but he is an admin on my channel. So yes, please put your comments out there. The comments up until now has been absolutely awesome. The people have asked for these videos to go out every 2 weeks. We will do that, and it's really been awesome meeting with you again and hearing a lot of things for the first time out of your mouth. We can talk about that later.
Thank you, Des. And one thing I'd just like to mention is that there is a real reason. I don't want to go into depth. Des did touch on it in our very first interview that I have experienced things that I would have preferred not to experience. So there's a real reason why my real name is not on Des's channel. And I'm not one for a Walter Mitty type personality. There is a real reason.
Very, very, very valid, and we'll keep it that way.
Thank you.
And yes, so please leave your comments below. Think about what's been said. And then do research. Most of the research I've done in my life is because of things I've seen myself, experienced myself, what things that other people have said to me. And then I would go research because I wanted to know more. Maybe some people just don't want to know more. They're too busy, too caught up in daily life, as you mentioned earlier. But I would advise that people take our time and actually make the effort to do research.
It's essential. It's essential, and that's the first step you can take towards helping Des, is do your own research and not let other people spoon feed you because you won't believe it anyhow. Make your own discoveries and take ownership of those discoveries.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Rob, for this discussion. I think we're stepping it up every single time, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say next time. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.